Today's video, it continues on from my previous one where I am comparing the simulation system from R25 to the latest one, 2023. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at rope, which has been added as a tag in the simulation system, and we're then going to hang or attach an object to that rope and have it hang from it. So what I want to do is show you how that worked in 25 and how it now works in 2023. So you can draw conclusions from that. So let's start. So on 25, we start with a spline. So let's go to the front view. Let's do that on both, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do both of these at the same time. So I'll do one and then I'll go across to 23 and do that. So let's take a spline object and then let's just draw a straight line like that. Okay, then escape out. So we've just got a line. Let's do the same on this side. Not sure if the scale is correct, but let's just draw. And yeah, let's just come. Yeah, let's just draw a line and then escape out. All right. So we have our spline. We now need a sweep and something to sweep onto it, which is going to be an end side. Okay. So let's just let's just put that in at 1, so it's small. Now let's go across to the other window and let's do the same thing here. Let's take a sweep and an end side and let's put that in at 1. So I want to compare. I want to do these at the same time. So you're seeing a like for like thing happening. Right. So back on 25, we're going to drop the end side under the sweep and then put the spline underneath. So it's gone round it. I'm going to do the same over here. Inside sweep. Right, so now let's add the dynamics to make this a rope. So on 25, what we would typically do here is on the spline, we would right click and we would go to hair tags and we would add a Spline Dynamics tag to here. Okay, that has actually moved the spline all the way down here now for some reason. Anyway, let's zoom back onto that. So now what we need to do is we need to divide this spline up here by going to intermediate points. Let's go to uniform and let's say put 50 points on there. Now let's catch up on this side on 2023 and do the same thing. Now what we do to add dynamics to this one is we right click on spline, and instead of hair tags, which you see it's not in there anymore, it's now been moved to the new simulation system. So the simulation tags now has the spline dynamic, which is now called rope. Okay, so if you look at the icons, they're the same. Okay, but it's been renamed and it's got a completely different menu. So if we have a look at the menu on 25 under the spline dynamics, we have drag, radius, stiffness, rubber, rest mix, rest hold, elastic limit, deform. And if we look at it on the new version, we have bendiness, curly, stretchiness, bounciness, friction, stickiness, target length, radius, mass. Completely different system using the same icon. Okay, so they've reinvented this from the ground up. Right, let's go back to 25. Let's have a look at what we do next. So sorry, we haven't finished this side yet. Let's just click on it on the spline and let's do the same thing on here. Go to uniform and put in 50. So we're at the same point now on both 25 and 2023. Right, so back to 25, click on spline. We now need to attach this piece of rope at the top so it can hang down and it will flap about, say, in the wind. That's what we're going to try and do. So we go to point mode, which we're on, and we want to select, sorry, we're not in, we're actually in the spline pen. We need to be in the live selection tool. Okay, so we just select the top point there and we click on the spline dynamics and then we go down here where it says fixed and we say set. And if we click off there, you'll see that it's got a purple dot. So let's go across to the new one, do the same thing. Click on spline, make sure we're on the live selection tool and the point mode. Select the top one there and click on the rope dynamic now, the spline, sorry, and then click set. Okay, so if we click on it, just trying to, there we go. So we've got the purple. So at the moment, all so far so good. Both look the same. Right, okay, let's go across to this one again. So now what we should have is this spline now acting. Okay, right, let's just check. That's not actually doing what I thought it would. Let's check this side. Okay, this one's actually kind of starting to move. Yeah, it's just kind of hanging there. So what we do to make the move is we need to add a dynamic into here, and I like to add some turbulence, okay, under the force menu. So on 25, let's go to simulate, let's go to forces, let's go to turbulence, okay, and let's put force in there, and let's put 20 in the strength, 20 in the scale. Let's do the same on the new one. Let's go to simulate, forces, turbulence, and then we'll put in 20 and 20 just to match. Change that to force. Okay, so if we then look at what's happening on 25, press play, let's have a look at what we've got. Let's just check that the forces, no, what we need to do here, that we either need to include turbulence or we just click exclude, and then that will then, there's nothing in there, so it will include them by default, okay? So let's just try that again. There we go. The thing is now, for some reason it's kind of turned itself the other way up. So hey, right, if you see here that you can see it and it's moving and it's kind of swinging back under, okay? Not too sure why, but let's just have a look on the new one now, and let's see if we press play what we get here. Okay, so as you can see, it's already straight out of the box with no adjustments at all here. It's swinging around like you would expect rope to do, okay? It's got that nice fluid movement. Now if I just pause that, go back to 25, right, let's play this. I just want to see what this is doing. Straight away you can see there's a difference, and straight away there's an issue here that we need to resolve, which is this is like a rod. This is not like a piece of rope that's actually been divided. Now, even though we divided that up into 50 uniform points, the same as this one over here, look, in 25, it doesn't work like that. We need to convert this to an object, okay, this spline. So what we do is we right click and we go current state to object. It then makes two, so we delete the old one. And now we have one that has actually been subdivided. Look, as you can see these points, look, it's actually been subdivided, but you have to convert it for that to happen. And now we need to reset the top point on the spline and go back to the dynamic here and then say, let's make sure, yeah, we've got that selected, go back here, go to properties and then go set, so it goes purple. And now if we press play, you see we've got that movement very, very similar to the new 2023. Okay, so it's an extra step there that was needed to convert the spline to an object. So on the new one, that doesn't happen. They're procedural. You can work on them without having to convert them. So that's the first thing. So we've now got a very similar rope spline in both scenes. And what I want to do now is attach an object to the bottom of the rope. Okay, so it's like it's hanging with a weighted object. So we'll just do a cube. Okay, we'll drop it in at 50. And we'll put some 2 on the subdivisions, and on here, cube, 50, and then subdivisions 2. Okay, so let's line this up. So it looks like it's actually going to be holding this box. Let's have a look at where this one is. Where's the cube on here? It's actually where the pointer is, that's fine. Let's go in here and let's attach this one. I think this spline is actually quite a lot longer than this one, isn't it? It's actually just grown quite a lot longer, but that's fine. It'll be fine. Let's just see how we get on here. Right, okay, so we position them both at the bottom of the spline. So on R25, what we do is we need to add something to the spline. Right click, go to hair tags, and we need to put on a hair constraint. Okay, and then if we go to, let's just turn off the end side so we can see the spline. We want to highlight the bottom point. So let's just move the box down so we can see. Click on the spline. That's it. Select the bottom one, and now click on the constraint, and then where it says object here, we need to drop in the object that we want it constrained to, which is the cube. So we drop the cube in there, and let's just move the cube up so it's like touching. So we go back here, cube, and now we say set. Okay, and as you can see that there's a, if I zoom right in there, that you can see there's a little red dot and a yellow line, like thread, attaching to the box, which is saying it's now connected to that cube. Right, let's do the same on the new version, on the 2023. So what we do now is we go to spline, we right click, and instead of the hair tags, which it isn't in there, it's in simulation tags, but it's called connector. Okay, so it's slightly different now. We've got a slightly different icon, slightly different usage. So with the connector, let's turn off end side so you can just see the spline. Let's do the same thing. Let's just move that box down a little so we can see the end of that. Right, so what we do then is we click on the end point, onto connector, and now this is a slightly different menu. This is going to look for a point with the search radius. Okay, so if you just increase that, it's going to have a radius of search where it finds a point to connect to. We're going to keep other objects checked because it's actually looking for another object. It's not the same object, it's going to connect to another different object. Okay, so we keep that checked. Then we just say, before we do that, we actually need to put, a cloth tag on the box. Okay, don't worry about the settings for that now, but we just need to put that in place. So if we go back to the connections, what we can do is go onto Spline, make sure we've got that selected, go to connections, radius is increased, and now we just click create. And as you can see, we've got this yellow line. Now what we could do, I mean, we could move the box a little bit closer to the spline, but as you can see, look, it's got hold of it, right? It's connected, it's found that connection point. Very similar to the connection point we've seen over here on our R25. Okay, so very, very kind of similar at the moment, just slightly different terminologies. Now then, let's have a look. So we've got the cloth tag on the cube. Over here, we need to put a similar weight dynamic on here, but unlike a cloth tag, what we do here is we put a normal rigid body on here. Okay, this doesn't work in the same way. So what I want to show you the difference here is if we go back to 2023, click on cloth, we don't necessarily want any bendiness on here. We don't want any of these settings at all. We just want the cloth tag so this thing works. Now let's turn the end side back on. Let's turn it back on here. So we've now got, let's zoom out on both. We've now got this box that's hanging on the end of a rope. Now, so let's just try and see what happens if we play them both. So on 25, we'll rewind back to the beginning. Let's get it back to 0 on both timelines here, and let's press play and let's see what we get. Okay, so what is happening here? Zoom out, and it looks like that box is just going on and on and on. It's just dropping, dropping, dropping. Okay, so it's stretching out the spline and the box is dropping and dropping. Let's have a look at what happens over on this side if we press play. All right, look at that. It's grabbed it and it's swinging around quite convincingly on the end of what looks like a rope. Okay, so we haven't done many setting changes yet. We've just connected these things together. Let's come out of this mode and go into perspective so we can both have a look at this from the same view. Let's go back to the beginning on both. Right, and let's just have a look at what's happening here on the 25. So, we press play. This box is, let's just zoom down the page, let's just zoom down the view, sorry, let's just have a look what's happening here. It's basically just going and going and going, right? Don't think there's any settings we can make here. I mean, we could take the stiffness up, and we could take the rubber off so there's no rubberness on this like rope cable. The radius, we can actually match the radius here of the end side, so we could put that in at 1, and we need to do that on the new one as well, but let's just stick with this for the minute. Forces, yeah, it's including the turbulence because we've not added it in there as an include, so it will add it automatically. Yeah, so what it's doing is it's doing some really crazy things now. What is that? Okay. Oh, that's because I've zeroed too many things out here. I think it needs, or maybe the stiffness is too much. Maybe it needs a little bit of rubber. Maybe let's just try that. Okay, it's twanging around there. Look, but it's still going and going and going. So it's not actually holding it like this, like the new one is. So how do we do that? How do we hold an object on a spline on a rope in the R25 version? Well, we had to introduce a connector, well, a spring connector under Dynamics. We had to put in a spring. So let's just put that down there. Let's put the cube below it, just so it's going to be in the order we want it. So let's go back to the beginning. What we'd have to do here, and we've actually got quite a lot of messed around lines here as well. It's all quite hard to like get this thing to stabilize, but I'll see if I can make it work. So we have a spring which is actually positioned up here now, which is nowhere near my original path, so I'm not sure this is going to actually work because of getting it into position. But what you typically do is you take the spline and put it in object A, and then you take the cube and put it in object B. Okay, so we have actually got that spring connecting up there, you see. Let's just see what happens now. Oh, right, okay. Okay, this might, yeah, so the spring is obviously, the spring obviously needs to be a bit longer. We need to set the rest length of this. Let's set it there. Let's put a little bit more stiffness in that, and let's see where we are now. Okay, so it's basically I think what we're trying to say here is it's not easy to do, right? There's a lot of steps here, and there's a lot of messing around to do to get that to look like something hanging on a rope. Whereas in 2023, without making really any adjustments at all, just using a cloth tag on the box, using the connector and a rope tag, a rope expression, connecting it in a slightly different way, it's actually, you know, and the other thing you notice as well is the box is just bouncing around like you'd expect it to on the end of a rope. Okay, it's not going to be dead solid. Now, if you look at this one, the way it's moving there, look, even though it's not connected, and I could probably do a better job of making this connect. You know, I'm not trying to say you can't do it. It's just that's at the same point that we've reached here is one of them just works really quickly and the other one would take a lot more effort. So that's all I really wanted to say. I just wanted to show you the new rope system, how you can hang a weight from it without using a spring, without messing around too much. It will just work kind of straight from the box without even looking at the settings, right, which is really powerful for me. So that's it. I will be back in a couple of days with another video doing a very similar thing here, where we're going to look at probably the balloon or something like that, something else that's within this simulation system, which has been introduced in 23, and I'll be looking at it as a comparison. Okay, my name is Mike German from Visual Animation. Take care. Goodbye for now.